My story in scouting starts in the first grade when all the boys in the first grade were called into the cafeteria at my elementary school, and a DE got up and talked to us about scouting and said that night the pack was having a meeting, and if we signed up that we would come and we could get a free juggling lesson while our parents signed us up for Cub Scouting. And so I wanted the juggling balls, and so I went and signed up for Cub Scouting that night and told my parents that's what I wanted to do. I remember my induction that night. One thing about it was it was an unconventional ceremony. I know that a few things said weren't in the ceremony, such as take 3 steps towards the council fire, now take 3 steps back. My lodge was known for building big fires, and so if we stepped too close, it was a little too hot, so they said, well, you showed that you would step forward, you can step back, so to not burn your eyebrows off. And I remember the lodge chief standing at the front of the dining hall at the serving line and shaking every hand of every ordeal candidate. It was his ability to connect with the young airmen and recognize that they were the future of the lodge and that they were going to be coming back and ensuring the success of the events later on in the year and for years to come, that made me want to come back and be in a Lingamat at the next ordeal. So I was in Lingamat for another ordeal, and let's fast forward to when I showed up to the Fall Fellowship during the September of 2007. And I showed up to the event, and a lodge vice chief that I'd gotten to know, being an active member of the lodge, said, hey, we need somebody to run for secretary. Do you know how to read and write? And of course, there were more requirements than that, but that was the line he kind of led with. And I kind of said, yeah, I think I'd like to. And he brought me over to one of the elder statesmen of the lodge, Chris Snoddy, and he asked me the same thing. And could I read and write? And he said, well, you'll make a fine secretary. And that year I learned so much as secretary. I credit that year with laying the foundation for my leadership ability in the Order of the Arrow. But one thing that I learned that was very important that year was that honesty is key in a relationship. Especially between an advisor and a youth in scouting. I had the ability to be honest with my advisor because an advisor's there in a supporting role. And I was very glad that my first advisor was one like that gave me so many skills and abilities to be able to use in the future. So later that year, I'd loved my year as secretary and considered running again for secretary, but they said, no, we think it'd be great for you to move up to the position of lodge vice chief and really take an event under your belt and learn how to plan and coordinate and run an event. And so come that NOAC, I actually spent one day with one of the advisors of our lodge, Ian Romaine, and Ian and I sat down and laid out a backdated calendar for what I needed to accomplish to ensure that we had a great fall fellowship. He also advised me the next week to go to another member of the lodge, David Garrett, to help plan the event. And we all got together in a conference room and we went through the event. And we walked through the event from both a staff perspective and a participant perspective. And this was probably one of the most valuable things I ever did, was to go through an event and say, you're a participant. You show up. What do you do? How do you know you're supposed to get there? And we asked the questions and put ourselves in the mind of a participant. We ran the Fall Fellowship. I actually kept my vigil that weekend and had been called out, but we still had a very successful weekend. And it was that weekend that I also ran for lodge chief. It was just a miracle that I got elected lodge chief, and sat down with the new lodge advisor and we planned and mapped out a good year, and we made sure that we recruited good chairmen, and I instituted some ideas that I'd seen to put in the lodge, and loved my year as lodge chief in 2010. I kind of had intentions to run for section chief that year, and went to conclave and thought that I would do pretty well in the election. 3 people ran, and I was actually the first one eliminated from the election, and it was heartbreaking. And I sat there in the stands of the amphitheater at the camp and cried. But a friend came up behind me, active in the Order of the Arrow, and said, "You can't let this get you down. You've got to pick your head back up, and you've got to run for section vice chief, and you're going to do great." In 2011, that I had one of my greatest experiences in scouting. I'd gone to AeroCorps 5 as a participant, and so then as Summit Corps rolled around, it was another conservation project, this time in West Virginia, and I said, I want to work staff for this. I want to be one of the I-Corps guys like I had at AeroCorps. And so I applied to be a member of the I-Corps for Summit Corps, and got that summer job, and met one of my best friends there, Marty Optoff. So what had happened was we were broken up into brigades and placed in different tents, and I was in the Y Brigade. And I was the last member of the Y Brigade to get there, so I had the bed on the end of the tent and there was another empty bed across from it. And I had my bed, and it was, oh, who's in that one? And, that's Marty. He's not here yet. He's coming tomorrow.
And so that night it was very interesting that I had a dream about Marty. I woke up the next morning, early in the morning, and sat up in my chair and sat up in my cot and said, "You don't look like the guy that I dreamed about last night." And he was like, "Well, I think that's really creepy that you were dreaming about me." And we had some banter back and forth, and people in the tent thought it was funny. And we developed a good relationship, and just hit it off and had a great friendship. And people just thought that we were great. We connected, we went well together, we were funny. And so we'd wake up every morning and it just evolved into what we called the Matt and Marty in the Morning Show. The things we made fun of the state of West Virginia. We made fun of people that wore gold loops, and we made fun of the New River. One of the guests that we introduced that night at the Friday night show was Jim Terry, who was the CFO of the Boy Scouts at the time, one of the assistant chief scout executives of finance. And we introduced him right after we made all those jokes about those three things. And he got up and he said, "I want to talk to those gentlemen real quick. I want to let you know that I'm the assistant chief scout executive, so I wear gold loops. I want you all to know that I'm a native West Virginian and that my scout camp was on the banks of the New River. So I can take a joke sometimes." Let's fast forward to the next summer, where I had the opportunity then to continue working with OA High Adventure programs from Summit Corps, and went down to work at Order of the Year Ocean Adventure. And there I met two of my good friends, Tyler Allen and Tyler Stepanek, and had a great time there the entire summer, leading crews at the Ocean Adventure program, being a member of the staff at the Florida Sea Base, and just getting to experience the Florida Keys as a whole. And it was an absolutely phenomenal experience. And then we flew straight from Order of the Year Ocean Adventure to NOAC, where I then, because of the work I had done at Summit Corps with the Matt and Marty in the Morning Show, got to be the radio director for NOAC 2012 and continue the show every morning from 8 o'clock until 12 o'clock. So met a lot of great people there, had a great time, and thought that the shows were phenomenal. Loved the NISA show and getting to see Fighting Gravity, a Vegas quality act, and that was through the Order of the Arrow. So then as we continue on, it was getting to be September, October, November of my term as section chief, and I really put in a lot of consideration of whether I wanted to be national chief. And I said I made the decision that I wanted to fill out a petition and run, and got elected that night. And was so glad that then after me, then Jordan Hughes was elected to be the national vice chief of the Order of the Arrow, and knew that I had a great team around me of Jordan, of Brad Torpy, the Southern Region Chief, Mike Gray in the Central Region, David Dye in the Western Region, and my good friend Tyler Allen from Order of the Year Ocean Adventure in the Northeast Region. And my year as national chief was phenomenal. That I got to travel around and go to 39 different events, and was gone from home for 43 weekends out of the year, but did a lot during my term, and felt very, very, very proud of the things that I did and the goals that I accomplished. So in the Order of the Arrow, one of my goals was to help implement the plans of Project 2013 that we had at the National Jamboree, and work with the JVCs there, and that came to fruition at the National Jamboree. One of my other goals was to help get us ready for the Order of the Arrow Summit Experience program for 2014 that we're starting at the summit, similar to Trail Crew and Wilderness Voyage, and to help with that, I attended our Order of the Arrow Trail Crew program at Philmont, and that was a life-changing experience. And I really think that so many of our members need to do these experiences that love the out of doors and love camping. They're not for everybody, but if you love high adventure, if you love challenging experiences in the out of doors, you need to do those programs. But as my term has come to a close, I had a great year of traveling and meeting the airmen across the nation, seeing and hearing their needs, and being able to provide feedback to the National Committee on the needs that our units, our chapters, and our lodges need on a local level across the country. And so as I pass the torch to Dana Miller, I recognize that it's his time. I wish I could continue. I wish I could keep going on, traveling around the nation and representing the BSA, but know that he's going to do a great job and lead a great team, him and Taylor. As we look forward and enter into our 99th year, it's exciting that when they finish, boom, we're going to be at 100 years of our order, that it'll be 100 years since two men at Treasure Island Scout Camp had a crazy idea to recognize the best of the best campers and to start an honored camping society. Our 100th anniversary means so much. It means that we've got a rich foundation and a rich history, that we've got a strong enough program, that we've been able to be around for 100 years, but it's also about looking forward to the next 100 years and to say, here's where we are, here's where we're going, and here's what our members need to see if we're going to remain a viable, relevant program in scouting and in the United States of America for these youth.